The first time I saw Ada Williams in person, she was screaming at a seagull. I stood in the deep, jagged shadow of the bougainvillea trellis, my back pressed against the warm, rough stucco of the Malibu rental, watching her through the polarized tint of my sunglasses. The dossier in my encrypted drive described her as 38, a former Hollywood darling whose box office returns had plummeted in the last 5 years like a stone dropped in a well. It said she was desperate, anxious, and prone to artistic temperament. It listed her allergies, her dress size, and her known associates. It didn't say she fought birds. "Hit your mark!" she shouted, waving a silk script at the indifferent gull perched on the teak railing. The bird preened, unimpressed by the woman who had once graced the cover of Vanity Fair and Vogue. The line is, "Desolation, not squawk. Desolation implies a soul. You have feathers and bad timing." The bird stared at her with black, bead-like eyes, then launched itself into the Pacific breeze, leaving a white dropping on the expensive deck. Ada slumped. It wasn't a graceful, cinematic faint. It was the heavy collapse of a woman whose strings had finally been cut. She dropped the script, wrapped her arms around her silk robe, emerald green, catching the wind like a sail, and pressed her forehead against the cool glass of the sliding door. I checked my watch. 0900 hours. I was right on time. I was 6'5" and 240 pounds of muscle built for extracting heavy objects from hostile environments. I moved like a tank when I had to, busting doors and clearing rooms, but I knew how to move like a ghost when the job required it. And this job required a ghost. "Miss Williams?" I said, stepping out of the shadows. She spun around, nearly tripping over the hem of her robe. Her eyes were wide, a startling, electric blue that I'd seen on 20-foot movie screens. But here, without the lighting crew and the color grading, they just looked terrified. "Oh God," she breathed, pressing a hand to her chest. "You're large." "I get that a lot," I said, keeping my voice low. Soft. It was a calibrated tone. Pitch shifted to register as non-threatening. It was the voice I used for spooked horses and high-value assets who were about to bolt across a border. "Archer Ortiz. The studio sent me." She squinted at me against the sun, shading her eyes. "The Dialect coach?" "That's right. You don't look like a Dialect coach," she said, her eyes scanning my black t-shirt, the tactical pants that looked deceptively like cargo slacks, and the boots that were laced tight for stability. "You look like you bounce people out of nightclubs, or move pianos." "I have a background in specialized linguistics." I lied smoothly. The lie tasted like copper wire, familiar and metallic. "I specialize in the mechanics of speech, how stress affects the vocal cords, how fear changes a vowel sound. Sometimes you need a piano mover to find the right note." "Well," she muttered, bending down to pick up her script. Her hand was shaking. "I have plenty of fear, so we should have plenty of material." She straightened up, trying to regain the posture of a movie star. She failed. She just looked tired. "The critics are already sharpening their knives, Mr. Ortiz. They're calling this my vanity project. The Duchess of St. Petersburg. A serious play. Me, the rom-com queen, trying to do Chekhovian drama." She let out a brittle laugh that sounded like glass breaking. "If I don't nail this accent, they'll bury me. They'll say I should have stayed in the shallow end of the pool, playing the quirky best friend." She looked at me, desperate. "Can you fix me?" "I can help you find the sound," I said. "But I need access to the materials. The script, the workspace, and the props." "The props? Context is key," I said, stepping closer. I kept my hands visible, open. Weight changes posture. Posture changes breath. Breath changes sound. The Romanov brooch. It's the center of the second act, correct? The pivotal moment where the Duchess realizes she's lost everything? Oh, yes. The producers borrowed a replica from a private collector in Geneva. It's in the wall safe. I nodded slowly. A replica. That's what she thought. That's what the producers thought. That's what the insurance company thought. My agency, a private recovery firm based in London with no website and no listed number, knew better. The piece sitting in her safe was the Amber Room Star, a sapphire and amber masterpiece commissioned by Nicholas II in 1913. It had been stolen from a vault in Zurich 3 months ago. The thief, a specialist named Kalin who had a penchant for theatrical flair, had panicked when the heat got too high to sell it. He had swapped it with the prop master's shipment to hide it in plain sight until the investigation cooled down. My job was simple. Get close, authenticate the item, swap it for a high-quality synthetic I had in my go bag, get out before opening night. Being her dialect coach was the cover. I spoke 6 languages fluently: Spanish, Russian, French, German, Arabic, and English. Linguistics was a tool. Recovery was the trade. Let's start with the basics, I said, gesturing to the patio furniture. Sit down. We need to check your diaphragm. The villa was a study in modern coldness. Glass, steel, polished concrete. It echoed. It was a terrible place for sound work, but a perfect place for surveillance. I had swept the perimeter before announcing myself. No bugs, no cameras, just the indifferent ocean. We moved the furniture in the living room to create a rehearsal space. Ada was vibrating with anxiety. She couldn't sit still. She paced. She touched her hair. She adjusted her robe. The line is, "I have seen the winter palace burn, and the snow turn to gray ash," she recited. It sounded flat, American. It sounded like a woman ordering a latte in Brentwood. "You're rushing," I said. I was sitting on the ottoman, my knees apart, hands folded loosely. I occupied the space like a boulder in a stream. Russian vowels are round. They are dark. They take up space in the mouth. You're pinching them. You're keeping the sound in your nose because you're afraid to let it drop into your chest. "I can't do it," she groaned, throwing her head back. "I sound like a cartoon spy. Moose and squirrel. It's ridiculous." "It's defensive," I corrected. "You're tightening your throat because you're scared of the emotion in the line. Russian is a language of the gut. English is a language of the teeth. You have to drop the shield." "I don't have a shield," she snapped. "I'm an actress. My job is to be open." "You're open like a fortress with the drawbridge up," I said. She glared at me. "Excuse me?" "Stand up, Ada." I used her first name. It was a calculated move to break the professional barrier, to simulate intimacy. But when I said it, the syllables felt heavy in my mouth. She stood. She walked over to me. She was 5'7", but she looked small standing in front of me. "Your tension is high," I said, standing up. I towered over her. "It's in your trapezius muscles. It's strangling your vocal cords." I stepped behind her. "May I?" She hesitated. I saw the muscles in her neck cord. She wasn't used to men this size asking permission. She was used to men taking up space and expecting her to move. "Okay," she whispered. I placed my hands on her shoulders. I felt her flinch a tiny, involuntary micro-movement. I didn't squeeze. I didn't massage. I just let the weight of my hands rest there, heavy and grounding. My palms covered the entire span of her shoulders. "Breathe into my hands," I instructed. My voice low, vibrating against the back of her head. "In through the nose. Deep. Fill the back of your lungs. Don't lift your shoulders. Expand the ribs. Like a bellows." She inhaled. Her shoulders rose, fighting my hands. "No," I said gently. "Drop them. Trust me." She exhaled. A long, shuddering breath. Her shoulders dropped an inch, then another. Again. We stood there for a minute, just breathing. I matched my rhythm to hers, slowing it down, deepening it. I could smell her perfume, something floral, frantic, and expensive, like crushed gardenias. I could feel the heat of her skin through the silk of her robe. It was distracting. I pushed the distraction down into the box where I kept my personal life. "Now," I said, leaning closer so my voice was right at her ear. "Say the line. Low. From the diaphragm. Don't push it out. Let it fall out. I have seen the winter palace burn. It was better. Darker. The vowels were rounder." Again. But this time, imagine the fire. Imagine the heat. Imagine you're holding something heavy in your hands. Something you saved from the flames. "The brooch," she whispered. "The brooch?" I agreed. "Where is it?" "I'll get it." She pulled away from my hands. The loss of contact was sudden and cold, like a door slamming in a draft. She walked to the wall safe, hidden behind a modernist painting of a blue square. I watched her reflection in the glass door. She punched in a code. The 5th of December, 2084. Her birthday. Predictable. Careless. She brought out a velvet box, She opened it. There it was, the amber room star. A starburst of gold and amber, centered with a sapphire that looked like a frozen eye. It was jagged, asymmetrical, and stunning. It caught the light and held it hostage. I pulled my loop from my pocket. May I? For context? Sure. She handed it to me. It was heavy. Denser than gold should be. That was the platinum core. I brought it to my eye. I wasn't looking at the design. I was looking for the micro-engraving on the pin clasp. There. A tiny scratch mark shaped like a Cyrillic L. The thief's signature. It was the real thing. $4 million of history sitting in a Malibu rental. It's beautiful, I said, my heart rate spiking. I could claim I needed to study the clasp for a prop adjustment, walk out the door, get in my car, and be at the extraction point in 2 hours. Mission accomplished. I looked at Ada. She was watching me, her face open and trusting. She looked hopeful. It helps, she said softly, holding it. It makes me feel majestic. Instead of just Ada from Ohio, who does toothpaste commercials, I looked at the brooch. Then I looked at her. If I took it now, the production would halt. The police would be involved. She would be questioned. Her comeback would be over before it started. The critics would shred her for losing a priceless prop. She would be the punchline of the season. I closed the box. I handed it back to her. Keep it safe, I said. We'll use it for the dress rehearsal. Until then, we use a stand-in weight. I wasn't a dialect coach. I was a retrieval specialist. But for the first time in 10 years, I hesitated. The days turned into a routine, a rhythm of coffee, tides, and vowels. I found myself fixing things. It wasn't part of the cover. It was just habit. The villa was expensive, but poorly maintained, much like Ada's career. The sliding glass door to the patio kept sticking. Ada would struggle with it, banging her hip against the frame, cursing under her breath. Let me, I said on the third day. I lifted the door off the track. It weighed 200 pounds. I set it down on a towel, cleaned the rollers, greased the bearings with some olive oil from the kitchen because there was no WD-40, and set it back. It slid open with a whisper. Ada watched me, sipping her tea, her script forgotten on her lap. You're handy. Physics, I said, wiping the grease from my hands onto a rag. Friction is the enemy. You remove the friction. The system works. Is that why you're so quiet? Reducing friction? I looked at her. I'm quiet because I'm listening. To my accent? To you. She blushed. A real blush, rising from her chest to her cheeks. She looked away, out at the ocean. The blogs are saying I'm washed up, that I'm too old to play the Duchess. They say I should stick to playing the quirky best friend or the divorcee who drinks too much wine. Blogs are noise, I said. They don't know the work. They don't see the hours. Do you? I know you've practiced the vowel sounds for betrayal for 3 hours straight this morning. I know you skip lunch when you're stressed because you think hunger sharpens your focus. I know you're terrified, and I think you're going to kill it if you get out of your own way. She smiled. It wasn't her red carpet smile, the one that showed all her teeth and reached nowhere. It was small, crooked, and real. Teach me something else, she said. Something not in the script. Like what? Teach me to say things I shouldn't. In Russian. I laughed. It was a rusty sound. Dangerous territory. I want to know how to tell the critics to go to hell. But politely. So I can say it to their faces at the press junket and they'll think I'm quoting poetry. I sat on the ottoman. The space between us felt charged. Okay. Idite k chertu. Idite k chertu, she repeated. Her accent was clumsy, charming. Lower, I corrected. From the chest. Like you don't care if they hear you or not. The insult isn't for them. It's for you. It's you reclaiming your space. Idit kertu. Perfect. She laughed. It was a good sound. A free sound. I realized then that I was in trouble. I wasn't just guarding the brooch anymore. I was guarding her. The thread arrived on a Saturday. Beat 6. We were working on Act 3. The emotional climax where the Duchess confronts the revolutionaries. Ada was struggling. She kept pulling back, afraid to let the anger show. You're protecting yourself, I said, pacing the room. Stop it. The Duchess isn't safe. She's burning. She has nothing left to lose. I can't, she shouted, throwing her hands up. I can't just explode. Why not? Because if I do, they'll call me hysterical. They'll say, there goes crazy Ada again. I have to be controlled. I have to be poised. Poise is a lie, I said. Rage is honest. Before I could push her further, a buzzing sound cut through the room. Like a giant mosquito. I looked out the glass wall. A drone. It was a quadcopter, black, hovering 10 feet off the deck. It had a long-range telephoto lens underslung, pointed right at us. Paparazzi. Or a stalker. Ada saw it. She froze. She was wearing sweatpants and a tank top. No makeup. Her hair a mess. They're watching, she whispered, her voice trembling. They're going to see me looking like this. They're going to see me failing. The tabloids will run it tomorrow. Ada Williams loses her mind in Malibu. She wrapped her arms around herself, trying to shrink, trying to disappear. I didn't think. I moved. I walked out onto the deck. I didn't wave. I didn't shout. I didn't try to hide my face. I walked to the garden arrangement near the edge of the cliff. I grabbed a decorative stone sphere, heavy, granite, about the size of a grapefruit. I weighed it in my hand. It felt solid. I looked at the drone. I locked eyes with the camera lens. I raised my arm. I cocked it back. I was a pitcher. I was a hunter. The drone operator must have seen me through the feed. A massive man holding a rock, looking calm and entirely capable of violence. I wasn't playing. I was calculating the trajectory to knock the plastic bird out of the sky. The drone zipped backward, banking hard, panic evident in the flight path. It buzzed away over the cliff edge, disappearing toward the public beach below. I watched it go. I waited until the sound faded completely. I put the stone back. I walked inside. Ada was staring at me. You didn't throw it, she said. Didn't have to, I said, sliding the glass door shut and locking it. The threat is usually enough. People are cowards when they lose the advantage of anonymity. You scared it away. I established a boundary. You have a right to your work. She walked over to me. She reached out and took my hand. Her fingers were shaking. Your hands are huge, she murmured, tracing the white line of a scar on my knuckle, a souvenir from a job in Istanbul involving a broken window and a very fast exit. Ada, you make me feel small, she said. In a good way. Like, I don't have to be the biggest thing in the room for once. I don't have to hold up the ceiling. I looked down at her. I wanted to wrap her up. I wanted to tell her that I wasn't a dialect coach, that I was a liar, that I was here to steal the piece of jewelry she loved because it belonged to an insurance conglomerate in Zurich. You're not small, I said, my voice rough. You're dense, like a neutron star. You have gravity. That's why they watch you. She looked up. Her eyes searched mine. Stay, she whispered. I'm staying until the premiere. That's the contract. No, I mean, stay. For dinner. I made pasta. It's probably overcooked. I'm a terrible cook. I like overcooked pasta. We ate in the kitchen, standing at the island. We didn't talk about the play. We talked about her childhood in Ohio, about the cornfields and the boredom. I talked about growing up in Texas, about the heat and the dust. I left out the London agency, the aliases, and the safe houses. It was a lie. But the way I looked at her, the way I listened to her breathe, that wasn't. The week before the premiere, my handler called. I took it on the deck, watching the sunset bleed into the ocean. Ortiz. The voice crackled in my earpiece. Status. Item confirmed, I said. It's the Amber Room star. Good. Secure it. Swap the replica. Get out. The client is getting impatient. They want the asset returned before the exhibition in Vienna next month. I can't swap it yet, I said. She wears it in the show. If I swap it now, she'll notice the weight difference. The replica I have is 2 grams lighter. She knows the weight. She holds it every day. Archer, you're stalling. Are you compromised? I'm ensuring the integrity of the mission, I lied. If she notices, she calls the police. Then the item goes into evidence lockup for years. We lose the retrieval fee. We need to do the swap on opening night. In the dressing room. During the chaos. Risky. I'll handle it. I have access. You better. And Ortiz? Don't go native. If this goes sideways, we burn you. The agency doesn't exist. You're just a thief in a theater. I hung up. I looked at the phone. I turned it face down on the table. I went back inside. Ada was wearing the brooch. She was practicing in front of the mirror. She saw me. She turned. How do I look? She was wearing a black turtleneck and jeans, but with the brooch pinned to her chest, she looked regal. The amber caught the lamplight, glowing like a dying sun. You look dangerous, I said. Good. I think I've got it. The accent, the anger. Let's hear it. She took a breath. She stood tall. She didn't look at the script. She looked at me. I have seen the Winter Palace burn, and I warmed my hands over the ash. Do not tell me about cold. I am the ice. It was perfect. The vowels were round, dark, heavy with loss. The cadence was precise. I clapped. Slow, rhythmic. You did it. She beamed. The mask of the Duchess fell away, and she was just Ada again. She ran to me and hugged me. It was the first time we had fully touched. She slammed into my chest. I wrapped my arms around her automatically, burying my face in her hair. She felt solid. Real. I couldn't have done it without you, she mumbled into my shirt. You did the work, Ada. I just adjusted the mirrors. She pulled back, looking up. Her hands rested on my chest. You're leaving after the show, aren't you? That was the contract. Right. Contract. She stepped away. The distance felt like a canyon. I have something for you, she said. A thank you gift. She went to the desk. She picked up an envelope. Tickets, she said. Front row. Center. For opening night. I want you to see it. I took the envelope. It felt heavy. Heavier than the brooch. I'll be there, I said. Backstage. To make sure the warm-up goes right. To make sure the vowels are seated. And then front row? And then front row. I knew I wouldn't be in the front row. By the time the curtain went up, I would be in a van halfway to LAX with the brooch, and she would be on stage, wearing a fake. None the wiser. It was the job. It was what I did. It broke my heart. Opening night. The theater in downtown LA was a hive of noise. I was backstage. The dressing room was chaos. Flowers, telegrams, makeup artists fluttering like moths. Ada sat at the vanity. She was pale. Her hands were shaking so hard she couldn't put her earrings on. Everyone out, I said, stepping into the room. The room cleared. They knew me by now. The giant. The wall. I walked over to Ada. Breathe, I said. I can't. I forgot the lines. I forgot the vowels. I forgot how to stand. You know them. They're in your muscle memory. They're in your bones. I knelt beside her chair. I took her hands in mine. Look at me. She looked. Her eyes were terrified. You are the Duchess, I said. You survived the fire. This is just an audience. They're just people sitting in the dark waiting for you to tell them the truth. Tell them, she nodded, tears pricking her eyes. The brooch, she said, pointing to the safe on the counter. I need the brooch. I can't do it without the weight. This was it. The moment. I'll get it, I said. I opened the safe. I took out the velvet box. I turned my back to her, shielding the swap with my broad shoulders. I had the fake in my pocket. It was a good copy. Visually identical. 2 grams lighter. I opened the box containing the real brooch. The sapphire glinted at me. Take me, it said. I am worth $4 million. I reached for the fake. Then I stopped. I thought about Ada. I thought about the way she practiced the word betrayal. I thought about how she trusted me to catch her. I thought about the seagulls and the drone and the overcooked pasta. If I swapped it, I was stealing from her. Not just the jewel, but the moment. I was making her performance a lie. She would go out there wearing a fake, thinking it was real. She would anchor her performance on a piece of glass and brass. I couldn't do it. I slipped the fake back into my pocket. I took the real brooch out of the box. I turned around. Here, I said. I pinned it to her costume. My hands were steady. I felt the weight of it. It feels heavy tonight, she whispered. That's the weight of history, I said. Carry it. 5 minutes to curtain. The stage manager called from the hallway. Ada stood up. She took a deep breath. She looked at me. Wish me luck. You don't need luck. You have technique. And you have the fire. She walked out. I stood there. I had failed the mission. My handler was going to burn me. I was going to be blacklisted. Then I saw it. On the vanity table. A letter. addressed to Archer. I opened it. Archer, I know you're not a dialect coach. I looked you up after the drone incident. You don't exist. There is no Archer Ortiz in the linguist database. No papers, no tenure. I don't know who you are. Maybe you're a spy. Maybe you're a thief. I saw you looking at the safe code that first day. I don't care. You helped me find my voice. That's real. The rest is just noise. If you're here for the brooch, take it. I don't need it to be strong. I just needed you to tell me I was. P.S. The brooch is insured. My reputation isn't. Insurance buys a check, not a legacy. Ada, I stared at the note. She knew. She knew the whole time, or most of it, and she let me stay. I ran. I made it to the wings just as the curtain rose. I watched her perform. She was magnificent. She wasn't acting. She was being. The accent was flawless. The emotion was raw. She was burning the Winter Palace down. Midway through Act 2, I saw movement in the house left aisle. 2 men in suits, earpieces, not my agency. Federal agents, the FBI art crime team. They must have tracked the thief's digital footprint or got a tip-off. They were moving toward the stage. They were coordinating with the theater security. They had a warrant. I saw the blue folder in the lead agent's hand. They weren't going to wait for the curtain call. They were going to arrest her mid-performance as an accessory to possession of stolen goods. They thought she was the fence. They thought she had commissioned the theft. I tapped my comms. Handler, abort. The feds are on site. Pull out, Ortiz, the handler said, his voice cold. Don't get caught. Let them take her. We'll deny knowledge. Negative, I said. I'm fixing this. I ripped out my earpiece. I dropped it on the floor and crushed it with my boot. I walked onto the stage. The audience gasped. It wasn't in the script. A giant man in a black tactical jacket walking into a 19th century Russian drawing room. Ada froze. She looked at me. She saw the intent in my eyes. I walked straight to her. I didn't look at the audience. I didn't look at the agents who had paused, confused by the sudden entrance. The palace is breached, I said, improvising, using the heavy Russian accent I had taught her. We must go. Now. The guards are at the door. Ada didn't blink. She stayed in character. She was a pro. But the jewels, she said, clutching the brooch at her throat. My legacy. Leave them, I commanded, my voice filling the theater. They are only stone. You are the treasure. We run. I grabbed her hand. I pulled her toward the wings. FBI, don't move, the lead agent shouted from the aisle, his hand reaching for his badge. The audience thought it was part of the play. An immersive, avant-garde twist. They applauded. They cheered. We ran. We ran past the stagehands, past the props, out the back loading dock door into the cool LA night. We didn't stop until we hit the alleyway, 2 blocks down. Sirens were wailing in the distance. Ada leaned against the brick wall, panting. Her silk costume was ruined. Her hair was wild. She looked at me. Her eyes were shining. That, she said, catching her breath, was a hell of an exit. They were coming for the brooch, I said. The FBI art crime team. They think you stole it. I figured, she said. She reached up and unpinned the brooch. Here. She tossed it to me. I caught it. It felt cold in the night air. Take it, she said. It's what you came for, right? It was, I admitted. But I didn't take it. I couldn't. I know. I felt the weight. You gave me the real one. She stepped closer. You ruined my opening night. I saved your opening night. The reviews are going to be insane. Avant-garde masterpiece breaks the fourth wall. Realism meets thriller. She laughed. It was breathless, giddy. I'm an art recovery specialist, I said. I find lost things. I bring them home. And what did you find this time? I looked at the brooch in my hand. $4 million of history. Then I looked at her. I found the only thing that matters. I put the brooch in my pocket. I would turn it in to the authorities. I'd drop it into their chain of custody with a detailed dossier on the original thief's mark, clearing Ada completely. I would deal with my handler later. I would face the consequences. I'm unemployed, I said. Blew my cover. Burnt my agency bridge. Good, she said. I have a vacancy. I need a bodyguard. Someone who knows how to make an exit. Someone who knows when to tell me to shut up. I'm expensive. I can pay. She reached out and took my hand. Teach me something else, she whispered. What? Teach me how to disappear. No, I said, squeezing her hand, feeling the pulse in her wrist. You've been hiding long enough. Let's go make some noise. I led her toward my car. The sirens were getting closer, but for the first time in my life, I wasn't running away. I was moving forward.